Welcome to Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is Belize, Lighthouse Atoll, dive site, Angelfish Wall. The wall at the dive site runs from east to west. This dive site features sandy chutes between large coral heads at the top of the wall. Depths on top of the wall range from 30 to 50 feet. This video was recorded over the course of 2 dives on the morning of Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. The first dive started at approximately 8:15 a.m. It included a max depth of about 55 feet and lasted nearly a full hour. The second dive started at approximately 10:30 a.m. I recorded a maximum depth of 60 feet, and that dive lasted nearly an hour as well. It was a bright sunny day, and the wind was from the south. This meant that the bow of the boat was facing directly toward the wall. So after entering the water, I swam underneath the length of the boat and headed toward the wall. Here we can see there are a large number of Creole wrasse on this site. Again, if I ever call out the wrong names for fish, please let me know. I'm always happy to be corrected or learn something new. On the left there was a sergeant major and a parrotfish. Obviously there are a great number of fish on this reef. There's another sergeant major that just went off to the right. I'm using the 4th edition of the Reef Fish Identification book series. It's a wonderful set of books, including not just fish but other animals you'll see on the reef. Very easy to find and identify fish in these books. The pictures are wonderful and descriptions in several different ways to look up and find the appropriate name of a fish. Here we are at the edge of the wall. I'm not sure what the actual depth is at the wall, but it's quite deep, you can tell. And you can also tell by the deep color of the blue. I enjoy looking off the edge of the reef. Here I've spotted a pretty good sized porcupine fish. Some people refer to them as pufferfish or balloon fish. I don't know that I'm ever 100% certain of anything, but very confident that this is indeed a porcupine fish and not a balloon fish, and also not a spotted burrfish. Very, very similar to the spotted burrfish, but the dorsal fins are a little different. I'm guessing this one is over a foot long. It's actually a pretty good size, and I've seen some fairly big ones. This is probably one of the biggest. He's not feeling super camera friendly today. Sometimes they'll actually turn and swim right at the camera and can be very territorial. They usually live in these cracks and crevices and don't come out very far. This crevice he's heading into is actually fairly large, not nearly large enough for me to fit into, but I was taking a guess that it might go all the way through, so I decided to come around the other side of this coral head. I believe this is a tiger grouper. I'll try to get in a little closer for a picture, but he wasn't feeling very camera friendly today either. But here is my porcupine fish, and as I suspected, he came all the way through. Here's another crevice or very small sand chute, and I don't know if you could tell, but some of the other divers from my group were on the other side. I decided to try and get some close-ups of this porcupine fish. I thought in worst case scenario, if he wasn't enjoying it, he would go through this sand chute and out towards the other divers, and they'd perhaps get a better look at him. Although their mouths are very small, they're extremely strong. They're able to crush snail shells and crab shells. Those are just some of the things that they feed on. I've also heard these referred to as a spotted spiny puffer. I did manage to get close enough and a good enough angle to get some nice pictures. And as I suspected, he headed off through this sandy chute towards the other divers. I decided to back off and give him a little space. There you can see the other divers waiting on the other side of the wall. I was curious to see what would happen. One of the other divers in the group was a little aggressive with her GoPro and would often chase the marine life away. Rather than getting frustrated, it's better to provide some post-dive coaching for new overzealous divers. I believe this beautifully colored spotted fish is actually a juvenile stoplight parrotfish. Let me know if you think it's something else. I didn't get a very good shot of him there. There's the other part of the dive group. I dropped back down and my suspicions were correct. They had startled the porcupine fish and had come back toward me. Given the opportunity, I decided to see if I could get a couple more pictures. I love watching them swim. Look at those dorsal fins, pectoral fins. Very unique looking fish. I got a couple more decent pictures, and I guess this porcupine had decided he'd had enough divers for the day and headed back off into his hole. Facing south toward the wall, you can see it's still very sunny. There's not a lot of cloud cover, you can tell when you look up at the water. I love diving on sunny days like this, especially in Belize. It really helps to light up the reef, makes for better photographs and video. Now on the outside of the wall, I'm headed east, and here's another grouper. I decided I'd try to go in for a close-up on this one. There seemed to be an abundance of groupers on this dive site. However, none of them overly friendly. I got a couple good pictures there of his face, but that was as close as he was going to let me get. Here are a couple 4-eye butterfly fish. I didn't really get a good shot of them. I wanted to take a look at this coral. I believe this is elkhorn coral. Again, not certain on that, so let me know if I've got it wrong and let me know what it is. Here I'm continuing to head east along the edge of the wall. I'm just guessing at the depth here, but I guess that's a couple 100 feet at the very least to the bottom of the wall. It's almost straight down. It was time to turn the dive and head back, as the wind was still from the south. The stern of the boat was to the north. This meant it was over the very shallow grass area. It was so shallow I was able to finish an extended safety stop while enjoying the scenery. Here I'm back in the water to start the second dive, headed south toward the wall. The blue fish just below me here is called a blue tang. They're quite abundant on the reef here. There's another one in front of me. Two dives on the same dive site are never exactly the same. I hadn't seen any sharks on the first dive, but it wasn't long after I reached the edge of the wall that I saw the first shark and then the second. Recalling from previous dives how my underwater signaling device had caused the sharks to turn and swim directly toward me, I decided to try that again. And it worked on the shark as well. You could see he made a sharp turn and now is swimming directly at me. Made for some great photographs and video. These are, of course, Caribbean reef sharks. I've seen more sharks on this trip to Belize than I ever have in the past. Here's a nice sized grouper. I believe this is a Nassau grouper. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong with my fish identification. I believe this is a harlequin pipefish. It's very small and difficult to see. I'm trying to get a good angle, but it's very difficult. It's only a couple inches in length, and I'm not sure how I actually found it. But I believe they are part of the seahorse family. They have a trumpet-like snout and a very small mouth and snake-like body with a small, clear dorsal fin, which almost impossible to see there. Here is what I believe to be another Nassau grouper. I got a couple good pictures of this one when it was swimming directly toward me. An abundance of groupers on this dive site. You'll see there's another one here below me, and he's opening his mouth. He's at the cleaning station. There are cleaner fish actually cleaning the inside of his mouth. I find it difficult to stay focused on the reef when I know that there are sharks about and I'm on the edge of the wall. The sharks typically like the deeper water, and it's not uncommon to turn around and find one behind you. Here again, I hit the signaling device, and with the expected outcome, the shark turns and swims in my general direction. However, this one stayed a little deeper. Not completely satisfied with any of the grouper photos I'd gotten so far on this dive, I decided to see if I could do a little bit better. I wasn't completely satisfied with any of the grouper photos I'd gotten so far on this dive, and I was waiting patiently hoping that this grouper would turn around and face me. Ideally, I like to photograph them face on and just below so I can kind of angle up toward them. With some patience and distance, trying not to startle a fish and move very little. Occasionally you'll get him to turn around and take a look to see what's going on. Here he's starting to slowly turn. Now he's eyeballing me. I got some good profile pictures here, but I really wanted that face shot. Here he goes. Not quite as close as I'd like, but I had the feeling if I got any closer, he wasn't going to hang around. Right at the end, I thought I'd move in and get as close as I could, and I could tell that was close enough for him. Luckily, I had my buddy behind me keeping an eye out for the sharks. Continuing to test my luck, I decided to use the signaling device again, and like clockwork, caused the shark to turn and swim directly toward me. I'm not sure why this particular device seems to have such an effect on the sharks. Other people use other underwater signaling devices, and I've never seen one have quite this dramatic of an effect on the sharks. It's always exciting to me to see sharks and get some shark video and shark pictures, but there's nothing quite as exciting as seeing a sea turtle for me. There's one off in the distance. I was fully engaged with the shark until I saw the sea turtle. I was completely and totally distracted. Hopefully my dive buddy was still keeping an eye on the shark, but I was keeping an eye on the turtle. I hadn't seen many turtles on this trip so far, and I was hoping I could get a close-up of this one, but he was cruising, and they actually moved quite quickly, even with little effort through the water. I tried to keep my distance and see if he would settle down somewhere and start eating. That's usually the best time to get close to him. But that's about as close as he was going to let me get, and I definitely wasn't going to chase him off. I'd rather just watch him swim, even if from a distance. It was getting close to the end of the second dive, and I decided just to observe this sea turtle from a distance. It's a great way to finish out the second dive. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.